Okay, thank you, MC. Hello, good morning, everyone. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Clarissa, as moderator for our event today. All right, are you guys ready for our main section today? I'm sure that we all getting excited for our main event. All right, let's move and allow me to introduce our first speaker for today, Professor Dia Arimbi is the Director of Language and Multicultural Center at Universitas Airlangga. Her extensive research focuses on gender studies and feminist perspective. Before that, let's take deep look at her CV first. All right, so here are the education background of Professor Dia Arimbi. Is the Doctor of Philosophy for Women Gender Issues and Master Art from Department of English Language and Literature, and then Sarjana Sastra, the equivalent to Bachelor of Arts from English Department, Faculty of Political Science, Universitas Airlangga. And she focuses on gender studies and feminist research, and then have some fellowship and employment about gender too. All right, so we have really amazing speaker for today's section, right? So without further ado, let's welcome Professor Dia Arimbi to present her talk on gender equality from a feminist perspective. Professor Dia, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Moderator. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Can you all hear me? Correct?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's good to be here. It's good to see you all. I saw some familiar faces. Ibu Emi, long time no see. I mean, we are the same university. I'm also part of the research center in gender and social inclusion, but I haven't seen her for quite very long time. Okay. Uh, everyone, good morning. Hope you are in good health. Because I know the weather is somehow uh, it's not agreeable because sometimes we have rain and sometimes we have no, not blizzard but rainstorm. Yeah, so hopefully that everyone is okay. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude. Thank you for inviting me here and sharing with you about women issues. I will say about women issues in Indonesia. Okay, I would like to start. Can I share screen? Yes? Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm gonna talk to you about because I will be sorry. Okay, because it's good for me to work on the issues in Indonesian setting, especially about challenges and opportunities that women in Indonesia have so far. But I also want to give you a bit of a context, what happened in Indonesia, especially when it concerned to women from then to now, right? I have about 45 minutes for uh, presentations and then we can have discussion after that. So as introduced by the moderator, my name is Dia Ariani Arimbi and you all know by the introduction that Mbak Clarissa just did. Okay, I will start with the idea of feminism, right? Because I will be the one who's speaking from the point of feminism or feminist struggle in Indonesia. So feminism, there are so many different ideals, yeah, ideals, notion, definition of feminism. Sometimes feminism, sometimes with the S, is plural because it's not single, although the goal is always be single. The goal is single, but definition can vary. Yeah, you have, because feminism is a word that can be added. Like you have a with a religious association like Islamic feminism. I work on Islamic feminism. You have Christian feminism. You have cultural feminism. You have radical feminism. So feminism is very fluid, right? So that's why it should come with a plural actually. However, feminist, because what it means to be feminist is also plural, feminist seeks to challenge the unfair and equal distribution of power and wealth in patriarchal society. So the goal is one, to challenge the unfairness and the inequality. Yeah, that's to fight against inequality and unfairness, and especially feminist perspective will be work based on gender inequality, yeah, based on gender. Although now we cannot look at from the point of gender because it's now interrelated, connected, and in feminist study, the very newest intersectional by Kimberly Crenshaw, yeah. And then a patriarchal society is based on male and rule and domination. So the feminists acknowledge that there are varieties of genders, right? The problem is when gender is higher than the other, that is problematic. That's when the problem comes. When one gender is higher and more meaningful than the other and is dominating other kind of genders. Now that is problematic. So, feminists are particularly interested in the contribution made by the media to settle dominant ideas about gender roles. There are gender roles, yeah. And when you talk about gender, there are so many category of genders. It depends on the society because gender cannot be excluded from a culture. Gender and culture is always intertwined. Yeah. So if you see, this is the traditional gender roles. Yeah, where usually you have masculine and feminine, what it means to be man and what it means to be women. And mass media play a crucial role in socialization, especially mass media and your generation, especially because you live online. Yeah. So your online identity is probably much more important than your offline identity. The moment you wake up, what are you looking for? Your mobile, ya kan? Bangun pagi yang dicari HP-nya. Bukan yang dicari ibunya, bapaknya, adiknya, yang dicari apa? HP-nya. Mana HP saya? That's the first thing to do in the morning. You are worried when you leave your mobile at home, ya kan? If your wallet ketinggalan dompet is okay, but ketinggalan HP it's a disaster, right? So especially now, when most of your generations are living online, yeah. So the media, mass media especially, teach a lot of things to do, especially how we behave and think in a ways that, of course, our culture finds acceptable. So that's why when you talk about gender roles, you have to know that there is a difference between sex and gender. Cisgender means biological. So although male, female, sometimes you have the intersex, but usually normative society in normative society will be masculine and feminine. However, gender is very cultural because what it means to be masculine and what it means to be feminine is different from culture to culture. Yeah. What it means to be woman, what it means to be man. So you have usually traditional gender stereotypes, and this creates stereotypes where being feminine means caring, nurturing, emotional, domestic, sensitive, passive, soft, and gentle, while being masculine is the other way around. So we always think in opposition, what it means to be feminine and what it means to be masculine. The problem is this is not equal. The problem is high in hierarchy, where especially man is higher and means much more important, being tough, providing, rational, public oriented, thick skin, active, rough, hard. So in opposition, yeah. Although in reality, of course, it's being challenged. Yeah, there are now many men who are not masculine and many women who are not feminine. Yeah, but still, because we are talking about stereotypes. Yeah, stereotypes happens in and this create imbalance of power because then one gender is more dominating and even it's a dominant with other gender. Yeah, so the imbalanced power means that being women means having lower status, poorly paid work and work in childcare, nursing, and teaching. Yeah, although it doesn't mean that childcare is not important, but it's seen less important in society. While public role for men, such as in politics, in leadership, the job is well paid. So you have the idea of pay gap, yeah, between men and women. So men is paid higher compared to women, and this one is higher state. So this is a problem. The binary opposition between femininity and masculinity is problematic because it creates imbalance of power when one gender is highly uh, is higher, way higher than the gender. So although a lot of, well, we have a feminist movement from early of the 19th, 20th century have made great progress, eroding this stereotype, but still there. Yeah. However, some may argue that they have been replaced by equally disempowering stereotype. Yeah. Unfortunately, we come with a new stereotype now. Like I will talk about it later. Now, what happens then in Indonesia? What kind of challenges when you talk about women issue in Indonesia? You know Indonesia very well. This is the map, and we have our motto, unity and diversity, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, where we have about more than 300 ethnic groups. That's why when we talk about gender, you cannot escape from the culture because one ethnic can have a completely different understanding of women issue compared to other ethnic. Yeah. So you have to take this in mind because although we have also on the national level issues on the national levels, but you cannot forget that women in Indonesia is also entangled between gender identity, ethnic identity, and religious identity. That's why we have three different kind of laws. Yeah, we have the civil law on the national level. We have the religious law if you are Muslim, if you're Christian, and you have also the custom law because we cannot escape here. This is what makes Indonesia is very, very specific and unique because there are a lot of things going on at the same time. Yeah. Uh, this is the time when the Dutch colonization happened. Before the Dutch East Indies, it was this Netherlands trade companies, the VOC, that colonized some parts of Indonesia. And then we have, before that, we have after that, we have the Japanese colonization. And then we have the Sukarno with 1965 coup. You learn about this G30 SPKI, yeah? And then with the Suharto, more than 30 years later, where at that time there was a strong connection, especially between the Indonesia at the time with anti-communist administration under the Suharto and US at that time. So the Cold War was at its peaks at that time. So it's very important to know this because this is very also important in contributing women issue in Indonesia. In terms of economics, problems. We have 1997 East Asian crisis, which lead the very iconic moment when Suharto had to ask money from the International Monetary Fund. And this is the way the head of the IMF looking at Suharto signing. So you see the constraint, the power relation between IMF and Indonesia, and this lead to 1998 protests where Suharto government's administration collapsed with the student protests, with the riots, yeah, after military response with over 5,000 deaths, maybe more, yeah. And in May 21st, Suharto resigned, and we have the Habibi, where his administration was marked with the severing of the ties between Indonesia and the East Timor and become Timor Leste. And there are also a number of changing in terms of constitution, yeah. Uh, and then we have the Alpur Rahman Wahid, where we have also his administration was marked by the introduction or the ratification of this the law that used to ban the Chinese name and the use of Mandarin under the Suharto. And Abdurrahman Wahid changed this. And then we have our first female president, Megawati Soekarno Putri, which in terms of gender was seen as an achievement because you know what happened in the United States. Even one of the biggest country in the world, the so-called United States, had never had any female president. Kamala Harris did not win the election, unfortunately, right? So Indonesia had received achievement when Megawati became the first female Indonesian president, although it's very short time. And very recent, we have also female, her daughter become the first female head of parliament. It's also in terms of gender, it's also considered as an achievement. Although we still have a lot of issues, yeah, but still in politics, in leadership, we have many remarkable women. And then we have SBY and Joko Widodo and now Prabowo, which we haven't, because he was just in 1 or 2 months, right? So we hadn't heard anything in terms of gender issue under his administration. However, if you look at the roles of Indonesian women, it's actually women in Indonesia had a very, very strong contribution, right? Unfortunately, not many, the narrative of Indonesian women contribution to the nation, to the state, to the struggle of independence, was not highly regarded in the historical book. Although many, or some of them, not many of them, some of them were considered as the heroines, yeah, pahlawan, but we did not, and we haven't heard anything more about them. Although we have a lot of achievement in terms of gender, yeah. Uh, Pre-Dutch colonization, there was this very powerful queen in the Majapahit, Tribuana Tunggadewi, in the 14th century. Yeah, women in leadership was already known. Yeah, in pre-colonial Indonesia, even with the in Aceh, we had Sultana Safiatuddin, we have Sultana Nahiatuddin, we have Sultana Sakiatuddin. Yeah, we have also Sultana Zainatuddin. So these are female rulers in Islamic kingdom, which because when Megawati became the first female Indonesian president in 2000, early 2000, there was a debate whether or not women should be president, women should be in politics, on women should be leader in political arena. But if we go back to the history, there's been a lot of examples actually where females became leaders. There were queens of Islamic State. Yeah, Aceh Kingdom was known to be Islamic State. At least there were four, and you have also one of the very famous seafarer, yeah, Kamala, yeah, and she ruled her army with more than 1,000 widows who fought against the Dutch army. But it's very few we heard about it, yeah. And then for the struggle of independence, Laksamana Malahayati, yeah, Malahayati, Kamala Mahalayati, Kamala, sorry, Malahayati, yeah, who fought against the Dutch colonization, he raised her own army. Imagine that. And her army was consisted of widows because the husband, they fought against the Dutch on land and all of them died. And the widows joined Laksamana Malahayati. So it was very famous, but unfortunately, you never hear about it, right? It's so sad that a lot of effort, historical efforts, are trying to silence their voices. And you have Nia Geng Serang, you have Cut Nyak Dien, you have Martha Christina Tiaha, who those are women who actually become combatants, women in the armies, which is a lot of people think that, violence, army are very masculine. But Indonesian history, Indonesian colonial history, or even pre-colonial history shows something else, something different. Yeah. And you have also the famous Raden Ajeng Kartini, which a lot of I would consider her as the first Indonesian feminist, especially in terms of education, because of her we now enjoy the privilege of university education. Because in some, not in many parts of the world, especially in Islamic part of the world, girls, women are denied their rights for education. Yeah. The stories of the Nobel Prize winner, yeah, from Pakistan, yeah, who had who she was denied of uh, education. Yeah, although things have changed, but in some countries, education for girls are still problematic. Yeah. And here, even during the Japanese colonization, there were women who joined the army. They fought in the front line. These are the picture of Muslimat NU. They were with guns, yeah, and look at the way they dress, because for me it's really 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 interesting, the politics of the dress. They are not wearing Western dresses; they are wearing kabaya, and yet they had this gun, yeah. This is the woman who joined the struggles against the Japanese colonization in 1942 to 1945. Yeah. And then look at the Independence Day, 17 August 1945, and look at the woman present there. Yeah. If you look at the politics of the dress, you would know that they have women who are obviously she was Muslim, right, with the kerudung, but she was wearing a baya. And you have also the girls or the women who are wearing rok, yeah, the Western clothing instead of traditional Javanese or indigenous clothing. But the men, they were wearing Western clothing. Yeah, so there was this very interesting article written by my supervisor, uh, Jean Taylor, looking at the politic of the dress that women wear, especially during the Indonesian struggles for independence, especially this picture, because this picture is iconic. So if you look at the contribution or the role of women in Indonesian history, since the very beginning, women were active. Even they joined the flag ceremony marking the most important day in Indonesian history, the most important day, the Independence Day. Yeah, you don't see any, you see men and women at the same time. And even if you look at the politics of the dress, you see the variety of women's here, right? But not the men. In terms of the clothing, they are wearing the Western dress rather than the indigenous dress like the Javanese or even other ethnic. Yeah. So, and then with the proclamation of the independence, we have the institution of 1945, where men and women contribute the same thing, the same equal roles. Yeah. In politics, women can vote. It's different than in some of the Western society where women's right in politics had to be fought with the first feminist movement, the suffragist movement, where women's rights were denied in terms of voting. Yeah, in America, in some of the in Europe, but not in Indonesia. Since the beginning of Indonesia, with the 1945 Constitution, women and men were given rights to vote, yeah, equally, yeah. Okay, until now, yeah. Okay, with the collapse of the Sukarno government as the first president of Indonesia, we have the Suharto. Suharto government marked a lot of things, especially when it's considered as the women's issue, yeah, in Indonesia. Yeah, his administration is known to be military dominated, yeah, very authoritarianism, very paternalistic. Yeah, it's very the government control is very strong. Was very strong. I remember when I was a student, Bu Emmy and probably other who are here in this Zoom room and experience under the Suharto. I grew up under the Suharto administration. I remember that even reading the books by Pramudia Anantatur, you know, the Buru tetralogy was banned. You could go to jail by reading that. But what happened now, 30 years later, more than 20 years later, the book was made into movie, right? With the I can't remember the name of the actor. He was the one who played Dylan. Uh, yeah. I mean, things have changed so much, which is good. Now we have this liberty, you have the autonomy, you have the authority to access this kind of book, but not under the new order. Sukarno was known as the old order, and then Suharto was known as the new order. Yeah, so rallying calls of the government, national development, national stability, anti-communism, which is in opposition with the previous Sukarno characteristic of administration, and family principle, asas kekeluargaan. And state becomes number one. You have to still to serve the state no matter what. State become number one, and this also affects to the role of women in Indonesia under the Suharto government. Yeah, so you have the mechanism of state control through paternalism. Very Suharto was very paternalistic and forced consensus. Yeah, so everything, and then military had a very strong position. Coercion, yeah, coercion. Everything was by force. Very strong censorship. If you wanted to read the news, then the news had to go through the Minister of Information. Coercions through the censorship, and then labeling people. You have people who are labeled as communists, socialists, liberal, religious extremists. So everyone was heavily controlled by the government, and the state become very important. And the state, the political system of is also heavily control of the state. You have only three different political party, not like now. Now, state power was very strong, and this also affect to the position of women or the role of women in Indonesian womanhood. Yeah. So at that time, and Julia Surya Kusuma named this as state ibuism, where the social construction of womanhood is based on the state, and state ideology become very important. Women had to serve for the state. Yeah, derived from the two concepts of housewifeization and ibuism. So state ibuism coming from two things: housewifeization and ibuism. Housewifeization is means that women are defined as housewife, dependent on the husband. As easy as that. Yeah. If I have to sum up, yeah, that's why. Okay, this is the book, yeah, State Ibuism. It's been highly translated. Sorry, it's already translated into Bahasa Indonesia. And State Ibuism is also women as considered dependent on the husband, and also they are also ibu. Ibu is from Javanese feudal notion that sees that something related to the gender ideology. Yeah, it's this is housewification. Ibuism. Wait. Ibuism is that sanction any action taken by the mother who looks after her family, group, class, company, and the state. So women has to be domesticized in the domestic sphere, right? And then they also have to take care of everything. So to be able to state, yeah. Although the current day abusism does not merely sanction but also defines women. So it's important that these women do not exist in their own right, but always in relation to something or somebody, to the husband, to the state, never on their woman's own right. Yeah. So that's how a women define under the Suharto state Ibuism. Yeah. Uh, if you look at this picture, you see that this is the father in Javanese Priai, where state Ibuism comes from. Yeah, the father and the mother. The father always be in the center. Yeah, and the mother is always related. Uh, her assistant to the husband, to the family, to the state, to the kampong, to the children, never for her own right. Yeah. So, okay, domestications, yeah. So, because women need to serve for the greater, the greater goals in terms of order and control, guidance, and stability. So, this is the core idea of state Ibuism. That's why the government created a lot of organization for women. One of the thing is Dharma Wanita, PKK at that time was these organizations were created to support the husband, right? To support the husband. And the highest goal is to support the state, never for the woman's own right. Yeah. So this kind of activity, Dharma Wanita, it was uh, it was founded as a replica of U.S. military wife. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Dharmamata has a number of implication. Yeah. Ideological, political, cultural, social, and even economic. However, as I said before, this is on the state level. As I said before, that women cannot escape from other category in Indonesia. I mean, even in other places as well. Yeah, not only because I'm a woman, but also I'm from which ethnic and I'm from which religion. Why? These are very important because that is in our KTP. Our ID says our marital status, says our religion. Yeah. So only in Indonesia you have to mention religion. Yeah. So there are three laws working at the same time here in Indonesia. You have the civil law on the state level, and you have the custom law, and you have the religious law. Civil law usually about the public affairs, while custom law is usually related to the private affairs, such as inheritance, marriage, that you have the custom law and religious law. So that's being Indonesian. Indonesian means you have to work and you have to negotiate within three kinds of law. Yeah. Okay. It's really interesting to know that also in one hand, we have on the state level, the state Ibuism. On the ethnic level, you have different ideals of uh, gender relation. Yeah, one of the interesting is the Minangkabau. Although this somehow is changing, but it's still there. Yeah. So Minangkabau is the one of the ethnic in Indonesia that understand or that's applied matriarchal, a part of the known as the matriarchal society. Yeah, indigenous to the Minangkabau highlands of the Western Indonesia, strongly Muslim but also Adat. So they work on religious law and custom law. The culture is matrilineal and numbers is around 8 million. Yeah. So if you see that this Nini Mama culture, it's really interesting to know that property is inherited through the female lineage. The husband is the husband only having the visitor status. I'm talking about indigenous Minang culture because if Minangkabau people go somewhere, create diaspora, there obviously changes, right? But the very core of the Minang culture is still matriarchal, yeah, matrilineal, yeah. Men have to wait to marriage proposal and receive by some young woman's family. So the one that melamar, yeah, to propose is the woman, not the man, yeah. So maternal home considered ideal for married sister. Yeah. So and property. So the most important figure in Nini Mama culture, in Minang culture, is the grandmother because she is the one who owns the property. However, that's on one side. You have this matrilineal culture. On the other side, you have so very, very patriarchal culture. One of the thing is you can look at the book by Anis Karningsih. My name is Tewe Rawut. It's a part fiction, part documentary. Yeah, known to be the best fiction in 2000. Yeah, it talks about Papuan culture. You will see the polygamy. Even you will have papisi. You know the wife exchanges among friends. It's very uh, very patriarchal, this one. Yeah. So now what about now at present? Although we know that uh, we have challenges, right? We have opportunities. You know that I mentioned about the existence or the contribution of female leaders, women in politics. We have also the quota, 30% for women in in parliament. But still, you know, there are so many challenges. Yeah. Uh, in a number of cases, status of women in Indonesia is lower than men. Yeah. Uh, Although we have more and more women enjoy higher education or education, but still we have the gap, yeah, the gender gap in terms of education, in terms of pay, the salary, in terms of a lot of things. Yeah, not to mention the difference between urban and rural. Yeah, many urban women are not educated and able to work outside the home. However, pay gap is still there. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, we have problem with the mortality rate. Childbirth diets still very high here is in Indonesia. Yeah, because of the lack of awareness, the importance of how do you say health check for the pregnant woman is still very low. That's why mortality rate, childbirth diet is still high here in Indonesia. And then Indonesian women's rights still under siege. Yeah, although we have a lot of regulation that secure women's right. We have a regulation in relation to the domestic violence. Sudah ada KDRT, PKS ya, kekerasan seksual sudah ada. We have also that the against the sexual violence at university level. We have a number of regulations, but between the regulation and the implementation is totally different, right? Although we see changes, right? If you go to the bus terminal, train station, you still hear or you will see signs. Okay, catcalling and then street harassment. If you've experienced that, you can go to the authority because it can be persecuted, right? Because we have law already. However, it doesn't mean that Indonesian women's rights are not being challenged. Yeah, it's still under siege. One of the thing is virginity test. Yeah, we talk about this. I talk about this. One of my students talk about this in our class, gender. Uh, the movie Uni, the movie Uni. I don't know if you watched the movie entitled Uni. one of the things is talk about a virginity test. Yeah, although 2014 at that time President Widodo sent a clear message of banning virginity test, but unfortunately, in some places, yeah, there are still, yeah, especially for female police recruitments, yeah. And then street harassment, although we have already the regulation for this, yeah. And I read some news that some men were actually arrested for catcalling and street harassment in MRT in Jakarta. Yeah, so there was this movement by Tunggal Pawestri that actually initiated by this one. Yeah, talking about the the danger of the street harassment and the trauma. Yeah, so we still some protests. Yeah, in one hand that Indonesian women have enjoyed a number of opportunity, but the challenges are still there. Yeah, still there. It's still huge. Yeah, it's still huge. We can find women who run small businesses. Yeah, but also you see, on the other hand, women who enjoy the privilege of being part of the higher social class, yeah, the socialites. The gap is still there. So Indonesian women are affected by many factors: modernization, globalization, improved education, even technology. Your generation is highly influenced, affected by technology. Yeah, this is what I mentioned. The virginity testing, yeah, it's controversy. And look at this, people like pretty things and respond well to them. So there are still unofficial guide of being pretty police women in Indonesia. I mean, will this kind of guidance apply the same thing to men? I don't think so. To be a part of the policewoman, you have to be pleasing to the eye. I don't know about policemen. Is it the same category? Yeah, because number of the lowongan kerja, ya, job opportunity for girls, for women, you always be attractive. So physical appearance is very very important. Yeah, kan? Which for me, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, in security business, do you need to look pretty? I mean, you need to look pretty if you join beauty pageant, of course. But do you need to look pretty to join the security or even army business, something like that? Not to mention about the female suicide bombers, yeah? How terrorist propaganda radicalizes Indonesian women. So now you have also the idea of female terrorists, not only male terrorists, yeah? On the other hand, we have also an opportunity with the Congress Ulama Perempuan Indonesia, where this is, I think, one of the very few in Islamic world where women ulama are acknowledged, yeah. So this Congress is done every year. Polygamy also still pro and cons. Yeah, there's even Ayo Polygamy and that helps Indonesian men to find their next wife. It's a lot of controversy. Yeah. There are pro and con, obviously. Even this anti-polygamy movement. Yeah. So the when we talk about women issue in Indonesia, we have to remember that it is not monolithic. Yeah. There are many challenges, many faces of Indonesian women. Yeah. So you have to look at the context. Where is she? Who is she? Where does she come from? Yeah, because you still have imbalanced representation of Indonesian women in the media. Urban, popular, pop capitalists are there. Ubiquitous, it's everywhere. But you never see news about indigenous women. It doesn't mean they don't exist. They exist, but we never hear of them. Yeah. And this is part of a lot of organization working on the Indonesian empowerment or Indonesian feminist movement. One of the thing is the affirmative action. Yeah. I think the last one before I close. Yeah. You talk about calon arang. Pulina mentioned already. Yeah. There is a very book theory introduced by Barbara Creed calls the monstrous feminine. Why is it when women have power, when women are powerful, women are smart, they will consider as evil? So the label, remember the labeling that I mentioned earlier, yeah, under the Suharto is actually extended. And Tuti Herawati already wrote about Calon Arang, that Calon Arang is considered as monstrous. You know, she's part of what in feminist studies causes a monstrous feminine. Create work on the horror movie because in many horror movie in Indonesia or even in Hollywood, the villains will always be women. Yeah, in Indonesia you have Kuntilanak, Sundel Bolong. You're all women. Why? And they all died because of injustices. When they revenge, they can only revenge when they died. Ya kan? So labeling is also one of the stereotype color given to the women. Women with power seen as threat, intimidation, evil. Yeah, they are seen as the witch. Calon Arang is seen as the witch. Yeah. Uh, Even in the Western world, Scarlet Witch. Why not Scarlet Saint? Black Widow. Why not White Widow? If I can, if because I also watch the Marvel Universe and I know that you are familiar with, Scarlet Witch is only comparable to Doctor Strange. But Doctor Strange has the title Doctor Strange. Doctors means rational, higher position compared to witch, but they are working on the supernatural power. But labeling is different. So for women, in the media, especially in the popular culture, especially, there are only two identity. She's an angel or she's a monster. So women who have power, violent, aggressive, is considered as bad girls, monstrous. That's why Creed called them monsters, feminine. While the good girl, the angel, yeah, kan, they are called as an angel. In reality, there are so many difference in between good girl and bad girl, hundreds of identities. But unfortunately, media especially only portray them. Patriarchy only label women as good girl and bad girls. And Calon Arang is part of Monsters Feminine. Yeah, I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it and you learn something from it. Thank you. I return back to the moderator. Thank you, Ma.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Dia, for enlightening presentation about gender equality from a feminist perspective. It was really great, valuable insight, and relatable for all of us. So, we will now process it with Q&A section. And for all participants who have questions, please use the chat box or raise hand feature to ask the question. We will take as many as time allows, around 10 minutes. So there are questions. All right. We see that there are one participant who raised his hand. So please ask the question and open the mic. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Uh, are you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, okay. First of all, my name is Muhammad Rashid. I belong to Pakistan, and currently I'm pursuing my master degree from University of Indonesia. Uh, and the most interesting thing is, I also my research. I have also my research in women political participation, and that is in our area. Actually, Ibu Aryani, I am sorry if I am not pronouncing your full name. Uh, but actually, I belong to the area where people are conservative minded. That women are they are not allowed to go outside from their houses like something object inside the house only for to making food and take care of their children, something like that. So I am doing my research, but I have like to get something suggestion from you that what type of activities we have to follow to make women empower there in our area. Something like suggestion.
Okay, should I answer correctly, Mbak Moderator, directly? Okay,
Yes,
okay, thank
please.
you, Rashid. That's really interesting question. Of course, as I said earlier, okay, Indonesian woman as the identity of Indonesian woman is not just based on gender, right? Not because of she is a woman, but you need to know where she's come from, especially because again, ethnicity, religion is very, very, very important. Because I know there are many varieties. Indonesian women come with multi faces based on the area. For example, even in my next to my where I live, next to Surabaya, there are places where women cannot even ask for divorce because women are not allowed for divorce, right? But other areas there where women are allowed to divorce. So you need to look at who's having the power there, because then you can have a because being feminist it means also like a cook. You need to know the ingredients before you cook, right? If I want to cook something, I need to know what I have first, because I cannot decide what I'm going to cook without knowing what I have, without knowing the ingredients that I need to cook, that I have to cook, that I have so I can cook, right? So usually, if in your how do you say research field is a place where very patriarchal, where men have a very dominant position and women completely out of the public space, then you can approach those who have power, those who have authority. Because other than that, because if you approach directly to the women, then most likely what you have is this rejection. Yeah, because many of the women, they are afraid, because again they are made into very dependent to the husband. So if you can approach the authority and work with them, I don't know if you can reason with them, but work with them, because uh, there's been a lot of cases where they do that because of they have no awareness, no knowledge of that, the low awareness of women's empowerment, because women empowerment doesn't mean only for women, but only for men. So feminism is not only for women, but only for men, because patriarchy tends to be very discriminative to men and to women as well. As I mentioned earlier, being man means to be like this, being feminine means to be. What about men who do not want to be like that? Because I said earlier, there are many men who are not strong physically. They want to cry as well, but why boys don't cry, right? So patriarchy is actually very restrictive, and it's a disaster for both men and women, right? So I think by working with the authority, especially those in dominant position, then you can work with them, give them example, ask them to see by themselves, because more often than not, it's not because they don't want to, but because they have no idea. They have no idea that empowering women also means empowering society, empowering men as well. Because to reach gender equality, I don't think women can work by themselves. They have to work together with men and other genders, because now in terms of feminist movement, we also include what we call as GETC, gender equality, disability, and social inclusion. No one left behind. So that's one of what I might suggest to you, Rashid. You have to work with authority first. And again, because most of the time they have no idea. They have no knowledge about this. Empowering women mean empowering society. Yeah, because a lot of things, if you have educated mothers, you can be sure that the children will be educated as well, right? Because the
Bu,
women will be work mostly in the private sphere rather than the public sphere.
yeah. Actually, I have my supervisor, Ibu. Maybe you will know Ibu Hosnal Maria. So she told me you have to make an interviews with some of the women there in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
So I I called there some of the like someone who have authority. So one of the lady, she is working in education department as an officer. So due to patriarchy, I'm just telling. So I asked, I wanna have interview with you. She said I am not allowed from my family side. So I just say, okay, you just wrote answer of my question, isn't it, to me? So this is very hard for us, but I'm trying, and this is good. We have learned a lot from here in Indonesia, and we see also that how people are working and how women they are going to empower and also make the way in their life, something like that. Thank you, yeah, thank you, Boo.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you for participant who asked question. And the next is there one of participant who raised her hand, and time is yours to ask this question.
Thank you very much for the time and space. Apologies for the any inconveniences. What I wanted to say is not particular purposely a question, but instead a contribution and or can I say a clarification. So to me, gender inequality was there earlier in the 1960s, 1970s, in the 18th centuries. But recently, everything about gender inequality is out. That is not in play in a lot of countries. Because if we look at it from my perspective, it is that every opportunity that is given to men is the same opportunity given to women. Women have the right to become presidents, although in most cases they are not voted in for, but they have the right to contest, and they are contesting. In other places, we have women presidents, women leaders in other countries. So men can become presidents, women can become presidents. But instead, what I am seeing here is that more opportunities are given to women than men. Because why? In my case, what I can argue is that there is no specific job where they will say men only, but there are specific jobs where they will say women only, 100% women. And to me, that is also unfair, not fair, that to me. And okay, if we look at it in the other perspective, when we look at the population of the men to women, like Ibu has also already mentioned the polygamy thing and then the monogamy thing. When we look at the population of men to women are far more than men in this world. And then women tend to live longer than men. So if women live more, and then they are much more plenty. For example, we have, let us say 1:2. For example, we say one, if the population of men is 1 million, then the population of women is 2 million. Let us say it that way. So if every individual as a man is going to marry one wife, so what will happen to the other 1 million women? Is one of my questions that I wanted to ask. What will happen to the other 1 million women? And then also looking at it in this other society also, it might not be 1:1 because why? 1:2 because why? A lot of men are becoming transgenders because there is no woman that is becoming a transgender. Every individual that is a transgender was a man and then later transferred himself into becoming a woman. And then the thing in Indonesia here we call bencong, bencong, I don't know. We have them, they are all men who are transforming themselves into women. So the population of men and the capacity of men has been reduced and is continuously reducing. Every time it has been reducing. Let us remove the 25% out of that in again. So what will happen to the 1,250,000 women who will be left unmarried? So that will also create another problem where we have in Indonesia called pelakor. They have all their men, their women will want to force themselves on another person's husband. Why? Because they do not have the opportunity to get married. And even if they have the opportunity to get married, the men are not available because the population of women is more than the population of men if we look at it from the perspective of worldwide. You understand? So to me, the issue of gender inequality is not a problem anymore because what the problem is that the society need to change their perspective. The people need to change their perspective on how we view the problem. Men are there and then women are there. Give men the opportunity to be able to act as men and give women the opportunity to be able to act as women. We are Muslims. Okay, we are Muslims. And then we look at it in another perspective. In the Islamic perspective, men are more dominant to women. The reasons that were given based on the Islamic perspective is because of the strength that we have in men. We know we have gender roles, but it's because of the strength that men have. Men have the opportunity to go out to search for everything that they have to do and then bring it back to the family. While women, because they are delicate, more sensitive, and then more focused, they are given the tasks to be able to manage the family because of their capacity. But our capacity as men is that we are having things from a different perspective, which is
Okay, sorry, Jesse. I think we have a time restriction. I'm reminded by the moderator. Okay, let me ask you, will you marry a 90-old years woman? My
there are men
question.
that
No,
there are
because you
men.
asked, wait. You asked what happened to the 1 million women who are not married. My question is, will you marry a 90 years old woman? I mean,
If
because when you ask
no,
about 1 million women that left and not married, there are also widows, old, but usually men would marry only young women, right? So when you ask about, men have the rights to have a multiple wife because there are many numbers of women more than men. My question is, will men of like 30 years of age marry a 90 years old
it
woman?
happens,
That is,
it is happening.
will you do that?
It is happening, ma'am. A lot of men are marrying older women. Even in the Prophet Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, from the Islamic perspective,
Yeah, I mean,
his
I'm
first
not
wife.
asking in the past, but now, I mean, you can ask the student or you can ask the audience here.
It is a cultural practice. Right now, I can give you an example.
Where,
Um,
where, where, where? A 30-year man marry, have multiple wife of 90 years old women, 70 years old women, or 85 years women.
okay, that is an example, a particular example that I can give you right now, where a lot of part of the world, we
Where? A lot
see,
of part of the world.
for example, in Indonesia here, it happened in Indonesia,
Where?
where,
Where in Indonesia?
I couldn't remember, but there was
Yeah, yeah, but
an
where in
18-year or
Indonesia?
19-year old man marries a 60 or 40-year-old man. But also in my country, we have a 67-year-old woman marrying to a 33-year-old man. It happens in my
Yeah,
country.
but only how many percentage? Like 1 or 0.5 percentage? You have to consider that if you ask me about 1 million women,
But it is
what
happening as
happened?
well.
Because this 1 million woman comprises of uh, varieties of ages, right? And usually, the how do you say, the married age of women is only 30% of that 1 million women. So it doesn't really answer because if that is common practices, I will see it every day on the
Because the men are not
newspaper.
available, ma'am.
But you don't see it every day. Yeah, you
Men
can
are
ask
not available.
the
Men
people
are not
here.
available. Okay, so my question would be, are there any opportunities that were given to women or men, to be particular, 100% any opportunities given to men in this recent time and they are not given to women? Is there any?
Well, yeah, there are many.
Give
There
me,
are many, many. Like If you go to the rural area, or as I said earlier, in my place, like Rashid also mentioned, right, where women are not allowed to go out of the house. In my next to my area, women are not allowed to ask for divorce,
That is
although the
cultural
husband is
practice, ma'am.
no, the husband is
Because because
abusive.
because because research has shown that research. Let us talk about the research thing. Research has shown that the mentality or the emotional status of
Which
women
research?
are not
Thank
stable.
moderator, could you please stop this discussion
I would not
because it's
accept that.
already and something. It will be time is up.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Okay.
Moderator.
For participant named Jessie, please let Miss Dia for answer your question first, and please Ma'am Dia to answer the question in 2 minutes later.
Yeah, Jesse asked about there are so many cases where women are denied their rights. Yeah, if you read Ibu Emi's research about child marriage, right, in Madura, there's in many cases where a girl of 6 years, 7 years old are forced to get married. When they are silenced, imagine if you are 7 or 8 years of age, and your parents ask you to get married. Do you have any idea what marriage is about? She's just a kid, right? And she was just silenced. And the silence was thought to be yes. Although the silent mean, I have no idea. And there are cases like that. Jesse, if I can give you a number of articles, who Emmy herself has done a lot of researches on child marriages in Madura. That's one of the things that I can say that women are not given opportunity as equal as men. There are other cases that women are given opportunity as equal as men, but the problem is why affirmation or affirmative action is necessary because men and women do not start the same thing, do not start the same way, do not start the same time. That is a problem. Although now the problem is not the start, but the problem is the system. So we have to change the system. But imagine the challenges to change the system is not easy. So as a feminist, I work with what I have. I work with what I have because that's really impacted on the on the people, right? So because if I dream to change the system, it's gonna take maybe 100 to 200 years because patriarchy has been so long in our world, unfortunately. So feminist struggle, feminist movement is still a long way to reach gender equality. Although in some part of the world, in the northern European country like Scandinavian countries, they have reached gender equality, but not many part of the world as well. So again, we have to be very contextual to know where, which women, where, what is the context? Because not all women are the same, just like not all the men are the same, right? So that is very, very important. I think that's all from me. Thank you, moderator. Thank you all for the questions. Really interesting.
All right, thank you, Professor Dia, for all great answer. And I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. And for the all participants who asked question, I really hope you have a valuable insight to you all. All right. So thank you, Professor Dia, for joining our uh, event today as our speaker. It was really great to have you here. Thank you, Professor. All right. So the next is our next speaker is Miss Retna Daru Dewi GS Putri from the FIB Universitas Indonesia International Language Institute. Her presentation will focus on current actualization and challenges of feminism. Miss Retna, please proceed.
Okay, hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. Clarissa, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's clearly.
okay, great. If you cannot hear me clearly or the internet connection is troubling, please feel free to interrupt me, okay? Thank you very much for Wonderland, UNAIR, for having me. It's a great honor, yeah, to be here today. Also, it's very interesting that we have one or probably more misogynists in our audience. Yeah, I've been speaking in many webinars. It is a very common thing for an insecure man to protest against smart females, especially those who are presenting. And I'm so ready to fight them all, especially those who are here today. And probably this is also a lesson for a moderator like Clarissa and other student of UNAIR, yeah, how to interrupt what I should say as unnecessary discussion in moderating an event. Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to ask help from Clarissa and team to actually share the screen of my PowerPoint presentation because I cannot do that with my with this specific device.
All right.
Oh, first of all, I need to clarify as well to Ibu Lia Purwanti. I am not a doctor yet. Thank you very much for the prayer. My last academic degree was still master's degree, soon to be doctor, hopefully. But yeah, so thank you very much. I'm not a doctor yet. I take that as a prayer and wish, yeah, so I can have my doctoral degree soon. Okay, can we go to the first slide, please? The title slide. So I think, yeah, no, the first slide. Yes, thank you very much. So actually the topic that Wonderland wants me to present today is about gender equality in masculine perspective. But I prefer the new masculine perspective because of course the previous masculine perspective, you have seen a few minutes ago the example of it, and it's very outdated and it's not going to be very useful for our life in the future, not only for females, but for everybody. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, first of all, Clarissa, I have 45 minutes, am I correct? Clarissa?
Yes.
Do I have 45 minutes, am I correct?
Yes. 45 minutes.
45. 45 or 35? 45.
45.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Yes.
So I would like to start my presentation with the thoughts from Simone de Beauvoir, who has this concept of becoming a woman. So actually, when I think about the question, what is gender equality? I think everybody has already this understanding of gender equality is actually the equal chances between male and female to do anything, actually, to give the same chances, work, study, for example. However, Simone de Beauvoir have this concept of becoming a woman, which is actually true, because as a woman, the process, the experience, it is related to each of our role in our life that is actually implemented by the society. It seems like when you were a kid, probably the female students or other female professors here can relate. Yeah, when we were still very young, I think we have to play with dolls. You're not allowed to play with cars, for example, but why not? Right. So those are the roles when we were still very young. And then when we are teenagers, we are probably not allowed to play outside for too long, unlike our brothers, for example. That's also another role of becoming a woman that happens to teenagers. And then when we grow up, it's going to be a different thing. When you're a mother, you have very different roles. So basically, when it comes to gender equality and why it is still a question and why it is still hard to reach gender equality, it's because the society is always interrupting the process. So if we can take a look at the second point that I have there, traditional gender concept is implemented by the society. Males and females are expected to act, think, and even appear according to the traditional gender norms and values. For example, male, you are expected to be masculine, to be macho, to be strong. So you're not allowed to be ill. When you are sick, you have to act as if you are strong. You're not allowed to ask for help, even though not asking for help is not good for your mental health issue. But the society says no. As a male, you have to be strong. Doesn't matter how it kills you. And male should be the breadwinner in the family. While female, we have to be feminine, we have to be soft, we have to be weak. When we grow up, we're supposed to be housewife, even though if we work as well, can you imagine if husband and wives both are working? Can you imagine how rich the household is because they have double income instead of one income, right? And to think of female as weak, we gave birth to babies. That is not the weakest thing that could happen to human on earth. Right. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So if we still pay attention to the traditional gender role, there are definitely going to be some negative effects. First one is lack of female and youth representation in politics. Earlier, we have an audience saying that it's not like we're not giving women chances. We did give them chances. You can be president, you can be anything. Yes, that is correct. However, the way women going to the top is actually being doubted by the society. In my research with my colleague there in 2023, a lot of political activities doubting female leaders. One of our speakers for our research said that her mother wanted to be a leader in their city. You know what the previous leader said? Oh, you want to be the leader of the city? To be the mayor, if I'm not mistaken. You want to be the mayor of the city? I don't think female can lead. How painful is that? Even though she is definitely smarter smarter from all of the what do you call it? The other future leaders, yeah. So they are doubting. Yes, she had a chance. I can be a president as well. But I mean, a lot of people doubting females. That is the traditional gender norm because you think we are weak. You think we are soft, even though we are actually smarter than you. But because male are still dominating this area, when one male doubt us, it seems like everybody has to doubt us as well. So that's what happened. Second of all, male domination in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It is pretty much annoying that some research mentioned that some medicine is not really working for females because they always test it on males. And then some safety equipment in cars, it's not really safety for female as well because the dummy doll that they put inside the car, it's actually the shape of a male, not the body of a female that is probably shorter and has a specific characteristic of body. What happened? Because male dominated those area. Can you imagine if female was there? Female should have another way of thinking, like, oh, can we have another dummy of a female to put inside the car and then let's crash the car? Is the safety belt safe enough for a female's body, for example? Because the car is not only used by male, we female also drive car. As an example, there's a research as well from Jurnal Perempuan. I used to work at Jurnal Perempuan, the first feminist journal in Indonesia. We have bullying towards female students in one of vocational school, or everybody here known as STM. Yeah, the female students are being bullied. They not only being bullied by the students but also by other students' parents. They always say like, why female are in STM? You should be in public school, not STM. STM is only for male. If that bullying still happening, of course female will not have the same equal numbers as male. So that means the STEM will still be dominated by male, and every technology will still be useful only for males, not for females. We need this point of view from both males and females to close the gender gap. And then the last one, earlier already been mentioned as well by Ibu Dia about the child marriage. Child marriage is actually coming from the factor of poverty, religious doctrine. That religious doctrine actually have like, oh, you're not allowed to do zina, you're not allowed to date another person. Why? Because actually they have bad sexual reproductive health and rights knowledge and access. If you're scared that your children are going to have free sex, get pregnant, then educate them. Do not tell them to get married while they still need to go to school. They still need to go to universities. That's the first three negative effects. Can we go to another slide, please? Okay, lack of facilities at work. In Jurnal Perempuan, we also have this research, the fight of fisherwomen. So again, if you said, oh, female can be president too, female can be fisherwomen too. But you know what happened in Indonesia and probably most of other countries as well? If you are working, if you have a company, the license is still under your husband or your father. This is what happened with the fisherwomen in Central Java. Their boat, their company, their shop is still under their husband's name. What happened when they got divorced? All the profit gone to the husband. Even though these fisherwomen, even though they are very pregnant, one of our speakers in this research, she was very pregnant. She still went to the sea to get the fish. What happened when we, Jurnal Perempuan, accompanied them to the local government to put in our ID card, there's a job, right? Either you are a lecturer, for example, they want their job in their identification card to be fisherwomen, not housewife. And then do you know what does the local government said? Hmm, women can be a fisherwomen? Really? Let's just put housewives in your ID card. That is very terrible. That's the gender, traditional gender normativity that happens. And that is not good for the fisherwomen, right? Because if the ID card mentioned that they work as fisherwomen, at least they can get insurance. At least they can say to the owner, sorry, to the lawyer that this company is mine, not my husband. So if my husband can divorce me, all the profit will still go to me. Like that. And then another research that Journal Perempuan did in 2023, menstruation leave for shoes industry worker. So we have this menstruation leave, but for some, what do you call it, factory, yeah, like the shoe factory, they probably because dominated by male as well, they do not really understand that we need a good clinic, that we need a good place. So for the female, if they have their menstruation, they can have some rest, or probably they can just be given menstruation. And then also paid paternal leave. This is another research that male also the victim of patriarchy, of weak masculinity, of old masculinity. Why? Because the traditional masculinity said that it's always the female that take care of the baby. But no, now male are fighting for paid paternal and maternal leave. Okay. And then the next one is increasing numbers of sexual violence against women. If we still have that gender gap, victim blaming will still be normalized. Every time a female go to the police officer says that I was raped, I was groped, they always say, "What are you wearing? Why are you here in the middle of the night?" In Komnas Perempuan for catatan tahunan or Catahu in 2023, they still recorded 2,228 sexual violence cases that is dominated by female victims. So we are still objectified here, ladies. So that's why we need to close the gender gap so everybody can think as female, as human being, not as an object you can sexualize. And then it also increasing because we have lack of gender perspective of the law enforcement. In 2022, if I'm not mistaken, I was invited to the birthday Dirgahayu of Indonesian Police Force, and then I went to the event that actually celebrating the female police officers. Yeah, they admitted that they still have this lack of gender perspective, and they still try to improve it. And why do they still have lack of gender perspective? Nine from 100% of police officers in Indonesia in 2023, 97% are still males. Only 3% female. While in Indonesia, we have 50% males and females. How would you, police officers, protect women if only 3% of women is in your force? All right, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this gender issue is actually already been one of the Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations, which is number 5. What is their goal? To achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. The Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, focuses in eliminating all forms of discrimination towards females and girls, as well as giving them all their human rights. So similar to male, they have the right to study, they have the right to vote, they have the right to be active in political activities. They allow to say no to child marriage, to polygamy, to everything that becomes the doctrine of religion. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So the UN focus in empowering women is to prioritize females' leadership and participation in politics. Why is it important? Because it's very important to have a female's perspective in making what do you call it, laws and regulation. And how do we do that? Well, we have to also dominate the participation in politics, and then to empower female in economy. How do we empower female in economy? Do not keep them at home. If they want to work, let them work. It's very nice to a household to have two incomes instead of one. It's not like the male going to live forever. If suddenly my husband died, I am financially still independent. I'm not depending on his money all the time. And then to end violence against women. So this is actually a very nice webinar, yeah, for UNAIR. Well done, because we are actually celebrating 16 days of activism against gender-based violence around the world. And then to support females' roles in the process of peace and safety. The conflict in countries where religious domination is out of logic, all the what you call it, domination radicalism. This is actually where we have to support female roles. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? So, what is masculinity and how do we see the gender equality through the masculinity? So I think male is very proud that the one good theory that is actually created for types of masculinity is created by women, by a woman, sorry. The book title is Masculinities by R.V. Connell in 2005. So according to her, hegemonic masculinity is a social practice which is full of power from the authority. I have to agree with Ibu Dia earlier that when we talk about gender and sexuality, it depends on the society. And when we're talking about the society, we are talking about the power of the authority. If the authority is too religious, too fanatic, then the what do you call it? The society must be what do you call it? Brainwashed by all those religious doctrine that is actually not the correct interpretation of them. And then if let's say the authority is actually have a good gender perspective, then probably the masculinity is not going to be that strong. It's not going to be toxic. Okay. And then the history of masculinity itself, we have the early modern masculinity from 16th to 18th century. We still have the influence of Catholic Church and imperialism. This is where the first religious doctrine saying that only male can rule the imperialism, the kingdom, and the church. And then we have colonialism. Colonialism is probably one of the things that I really blame on for the condition of gender situation in Indonesia. Why? Because colonialism brought those church doctrine that male should be the leader and the gender is only two, male and female. While just like exactly what Ibu Dia earlier mentioned, when we are talking about gender, we have many spectrum. And then we have commercial capitalism, how the idea of male, they should wear this product, they should wear this masculine perfume, for example, which is actually still happening until now. And then we have social classes as a result of the religious war. So this is related to the imperialism, how male should be leaders. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, now this is present day masculinity from the 18th century until now. We still have this implementation of Euro American gender concept, which can change the traditional gender concept. So Euro American, I can say that they are probably more progressive. So they have the gender concept that is not only black and white, not only male and female. This is related to the second point, fights for from the traditional gender society. The traditional gender society always think that humans are black and white, male and female. There's no such thing as masculine female. There's no such thing as feminine male, while they are very, very wrong. And then we have feminism struggle against discrimination, where feminism actually reveal that human being, they, especially the ruler, the patriarchy, has racism. They have chauvinism. And then feminism also helped to deconstruct the traditional concept of masculinity and reveals various types of gender and sexualities. Like in Indonesia, in Sulawesi, for example, we actually have five types of gender right over there. We have trans men. I forgot the traditional name. Yeah, so if everybody knows better than me about the traditional name, I can still remember Bisu, but I
I think
forgot.
it's Chalalai and Chalabai.
Exactly, Bu. Chalalai,
Chalalai,
Chalabai,
Chalabai, and
Bisu.
Bisu. Yeah.
And we have, so basically those five term is for hetero male, hetero female, transgender male, and transgender female. So whoever earlier mentioned that there's no such thing as transgender female, we have actually. And we have the bisu. I think bisu is the asexual one. We cannot really classify them as male or female or the trans. And they are very respected in society in Sulawesi ages ago. But because of the colonialism and because of the black and white of religion, there's there now it's going to be less and less of those five gender norms. So actually, originally in Indonesia ourselves, we have various genders and sexuality. It turned out the colonialism and the doctrine of religion is actually the one that I can say ruin our tradition. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, now modern change of masculinity. The recognition of homosexuality actually deconstruct the concept of traditional masculinity. So, ladies and gentlemen, homosexuality is not an illness. According to the American Psychological Association and American Psychiatric Association, they have done many research and showing empirical evidence that homosexuality is not an illness. It's not a mental issue. It is actually considered as a normal spectrum of human being. If you watch that film, the actor is Benedict Cumberbatch. He is playing Alan Turing, the founder of computer. He was one of the example. Alan Turing was one of the example of a homosexual guy, a gay guy that got correction treatment. They gave him medicine to treat him because they thought homosexual is an illness. Turned out the medicine killed him. So the American Psychology and Psychiatrists Association, after they did that and do quite a lot of research, they found the empirical evidence that no, it is not an illness. So the recognition of homosexuality as just a spectrum of human being, ladies and gentlemen, a human being is not only black and white, we are colorful. So once they recognize it, the modern world is actually changing. We accept this type of masculinity. And then the next point, industrial and domestic division of work. I would like to know for students here, I don't know how many of you who's at home whose parents still say that females need to, help the mother cleans while the male do not do anything. If you still experience that at home, you are the one who's supposed to deconstruct that and to apply the modern change of masculinity and the division of domestic work. And then the last one is traditional gender roles brought by the colonialism. This is something that we are still fighting off, yeah. Just like the example of five genders that we mentioned earlier in Sulawesi. Okay, can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, so Connell actually categorized 12 types of masculinity. Let me try to do this one quick. Hegemonic masculinity is actually the common one. The the complicit masculinity is they're not masculine enough, if I might say so, but they benefit from other men whose actually masculinity seems stronger or more toxic than themselves. We have subordinated masculinity, we have marginalized masculinity, protests. Number six is popular among us, probably ladies, toxic masculinity, where their weak masculinity is actually undergrade other people and along the male. Yeah. We have masculinity capitalism. I mentioned that earlier. Global hegemony, hybrid masculinity. Number 10, precarious masculinity. Example you have mentioned earlier is the kind of male that have aggression and fight what they understand. And they do not really want to receive new knowledge, especially those who actually brainwash with the religious thoughts and misunderstanding. We have masculinity and emotion. It's common that men reduce their emotion, and then the crisis of masculinity. Next slide, please. Okay, so new masculinity. Manly has a book that says men were told to hurt rather than help, harm rather than heal. This in new masculinity is actually the one we need to deconstruct, not only by female but also from male, deconstructing the traditional gender norm implemented by the society. For those in Indonesia, you can Google Aliansi Laki-Laki Baru. So this is a new masculinity community. This community fight against violence against women through domestic work division as a start. So Aliansi Laki-Laki Baru promote gender equality by saying, start from your home. Start helping your wife. Start helping your wife cook. Start helping your wife take care of the children. They are not our housemate. They are our wife. And then we have domestic work division as a new form of masculinity, the paternal leave. That's the one I mentioned earlier. Yeah. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? I try to be quick because my time is almost up. So, what is the gender equality from the new masculine perspective? First of all, domestic chores division. Ladies and gentlemen, students, if at home you are still divided by your parents to do general gender traditional work, try to deconstruct that. If we have male students here, ask your parents why my sister always do the dishes. I want to do the dishes. I want to do the laundry because those are my clothes as well. Why my sister always do everything? And then if like the next one is hands-on parenting. So quite a lot of males actually do hands-on parenting. They actually take care of their baby because research also mentioned it's good for babies and children if they have equal parents taking care of them. And then we have equality in work and education, improvement of economy, not economy, sorry, through female participation in the workforce. I attended this speech by Ibu Carlina Supeli, a lecturer from STF Diyarkara. So actually, research in Indonesia says that female dominate all the education area from kindergarten until master's degree. But what happened if they go into the workforce? It is normalized for them to work, get married, and then stay at home as housewife, no longer working. While actually we dominate the education area and our GPA are actually higher than the male. So we need to stop that. We have to give them equality work because we can help improve the economy of the country as well. And then more attention on mental health issue. I love the fact that males nowadays start speaking up and they also have this attention to mental health issue. They're looking for help from the expert. And then Jukes in their research mentioned about talking gender. What is talking gender? Education to deconstruct traditional concept gender and masculinity. Probably to the question by Rashid earlier, answered by Ibu Dia about empowering the society. For your research, probably you can try and do this. Education to deconstruct the traditional concept. We cannot depend on the powerful people of Pakistan, yeah, Rashid, because I know Pakistan probably have the same traditional mindset as Indonesia. But you have to start from people at home. You have to start with the males, with the brothers, with the father. Probably father is a little bit difficult, but you can start educating them at home. And then we can also support and protect victims of sexual violence. That's the new masculine perspective too. We want in Indonesia, we want the UU TPKS, yeah, the law against sexual violence, to be implemented to all sexual violence cases. Okay, can we go to the next slides, please? Okay, so to relate the new masculinity with the topic of calon arang, we can actually see masculinity to deconstruct our image on calon arang. Yeah, as the first one, new masculinity can deconstruct the divorcee or widow image. Calon arang, as Ibu Dia earlier mentioned, we're somehow strong, smart women. We are considered as scary. We are scary for insecure men. Strong men will never be afraid of strong women. Okay, so that's why Talon Arang is considered as witch. I think it's the same with Medusa. You know those Greek character that has snakes as her hair. She was actually raped. She was raped, and as a rape victim, she was victim blamed. So everybody was so afraid to go close to her. That's why she was created like that. Well, she's actually a victim of sexual violence. So they deconstruct the new masculinity can deconstruct the image of divorcee and widow through what? Eliminate female objectification. Somehow, divorcee or widow in Indonesia has this image of sexually thirsty, which is very, very wrong. You can go, for those in Indonesia, you can check those empowering institution for divorcee and widow. We have Safe Janda Institution and Yayasan Peka or Perempuan Kepala Keluarga. So they no longer use the word peka, they use Perempuan Kepala Keluarga. Last one, this is the last point of my presentation. New masculinity can deconstruct a female dependence on male. Female can live independently by herself without a male partner, like what the society has been always expecting. Female students, just because probably your friends, your neighbor got married after they graduated, if you do not want to get married first, that's okay. You don't have to do so. Go gain your master degree or work, gain lots and lots of experiment and experiences. Just like it's not like when everybody's getting married, you don't have to do so. We can live independently by ourselves. If you want to get married, do not be in a rush. There will be someone who actually is suitable for you. And no, even though we female, some people said we are more than male, doesn't mean like we have to marry all males, and doesn't mean that we can implement the polygamy concept whatsoever. We can live by ourselves. And once that is done, then I think we can close.
All right, thank you, Ms. Retno, for the wonderful insight about current actualization and challenges of feminism. It was really increased our insight, especially about masculinity too. So, and Miss, would you please stay with us for our next Q&A session together with our third session? And if you guys have question in this section, please hold on first because we will open our Q&A session after our third speaker. And let's move on to our final speaker for today's session is Professor Dr. Emi Susanti, Chair of the Center of Gender Studies and Social Inclusion at Universitas Airlangga. And her topic for today's session is gender and women empowerment from a sociological perspective. And Professor Amy, please take the stage for 30 minutes next.
Oke, thank you, Mbak tadi Clarissa ya. Oke, thank you. May I share my screen first?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Oke. Oke. Yes, the topic of my discussion here is gender inequality and women empowerment from a sociological perspective. This is some notes from Calon Arang Legend. So my presentation will be quite short, and I will relate directly to the Calon Arang story. Yeah. Okay. We may look at the Calon Arang story, Calon Arang legend. We could look at the what are the female characters in that story. We could see three female characters here. The first one is Calon Arang. Calon Arang is the main character who is depicted as a powerful widow who masters black magic. She has great power, but often misuses it to take revenge and spread terror in the village. And the second one is Ratna Mangali. She's a beautiful daughter of Chalan Arang, who is a victim of her mother's actions. Her beauty couldn't bring her happiness because people are afraid of her mother. The third one is Diah Vedawati. She's a daughter of Empu Barada, a powerful blacksmith. She's one of the characters who enlivens the story, although her role is not as big as Jalan Arang or Ratna Mangali. Okay? And when we look at the more in the symbolism of female characters in that story, we found here that calon arang is a symbol of resistance. Calon arang is often seen as a symbol of women's resistance against injustice and oppression. She fights against the social system that limits women's freedom. She is a complex figure having good and bad sides. On the other, on the one hand, she loves her daughter very much, but on the other hand, she is also cruel and vengeful. The Ratna Mangali is a victim of circumstances. She is a victim of her mother's actions and society's views on women at that time. Her beauty is actually a burden because it makes it difficult for her to find happiness. Dia Vedawati is a woman in the family. She represents the role of women in the family at that time. So this is when we look deeply in the character and the female character and the role and the symbol of female characters in the Calon Arang legend. This is the picture of Calon Arang, the mask. I think this is the Balinese mask when they are dancing. This is the figure of Calon Arang. So, what are the gender matters here at the Calon Arang legend? And the Calon Arang legend, we can see some gender injustice indicator. The first one is marginalized widow status. Calon Arang, as a widow, experiences marginalization in society. Her widow status makes her vulnerable to social stigma and discrimination. Her inability to remarry and difficulty earning a living trigger her anger and revenge. And also, we could find that there is a limited role of women. Women are generally depicted with limited roles, namely as wives and housewives. Ratna Mangali, Calon Arang's daughter, for example, is expected to get married soon and have a family. Her life choices are very limited and determined by prevailing social norms. And the third one is power as a tool of revenge. This is a very important, I think. Uh, Jalan Arang uses her magical powers as a tool to take revenge for the injustice she experienced. This shows that women who feel oppressed could seek a way out in extreme ways, even though these methods are not correct by the community at that time. Right. And in this Calon Arang story, we could also see the patriarchy and gender inequality matters and injustice. Yeah, because in that story we could see that Calon Arang's use of magic, and could be interpreted as a form of resistance against patriarchal norms. A society dominated by male power, her mastery of supernatural abilities challenged traditional gender roles and expectations. She is able to defy societal constraints and exert control over her own destiny. So the legend also reinforces certain patriarchal stereotypes. Calon Arang's actions are often described as excessive and destructive, leading to the suffering of others. The legend offers a complex and nuanced explorations of gender and power dynamics. While it celebrates a powerful female figures, it also highlights the challenge faced by women in patriarchal society. So we have to look when we talk about this Calon Arang story, we need to look at the concept of patriarchy. Yes, I think Bu Dia already explained about this, but I will just look at this concept of patriarchy from a sociological perspective. This concept refers to a social system where men hold primary power and predominate in roles of political leadership, moral authority, social privilege, and control of property. Right. It is universal phenomenon rooted in biological differences between men and women, while others view it as a social construct that varies across cultures and historical periods and can manifest in various forms, including gender inequality, discrimination, and violence against women. So the dimensions of patriarchy itself, there is a public and private patriarchy system, and the dimension including gender roles and stereotypes, economic inequality, political underrepresentation, violence against women, and sexuality, and cultural and social norms. All right, this is the figures of Ratna Mangali, a beautiful girl. All right. So, what is the relevance of this female characters and the role and the patriarchy system describes in the Calon Arang story? Here I try to describe uh, the relevance of the Calon Arang's female characters, and gender issues with the women's struggles today. The first one the resistance against the patriarchal system. Both Calon Arang and Indonesian women today and other women and all over the world are fighting against the patriarchal system that limits their space and opportunities. Calon Arang fights in a magical way, while modern women use various methods such as advocacy, education, and organization. The second one is social stigma. Calon Arang experiences social stigma as a widow. Likewise, Indonesian women and women all over the world often face stigma related to marital status, career choices, or even appearance. The third one is struggle for justice. Both Calon Arang and Indonesian and other women in general are fighting for justice and equality. They want their rights to be recognized and have the same opportunities as men. And the fourth one, this is the important thing, I say, the use of power. Calon Arang uses her magical powers to take revenge. In the modern context, women use various forms of power, such as knowledge, voice, solidarity, to achieve all their goals. Right. This is about the concept of gender inequality. Gender equality is the concept that all people, men and women, are free to develop their personal abilities and make choices without limitation imposed by stereotypes, rigid gender roles, or prejudice, right? And gender equality means that the differences in behavior, aspiration, and needs of women and men are considered, valued, and accepted equally. Um, uh, People sees that there is a gender inequality, like what we can see here in the figures, because look at the ladders. At at first, the ladder for the women is only 4 steps, right? And it means that it's very difficult for women to go to the highest level of career, of level of education and something like that, right? And when we look at the concept of gender equality, we also have to look at the concept of empowerment. Yeah, look at this. That the use of power is very, very important to get the the power is very important to get the condition of gender equality. Right. The concept of empowerment refers to the process of gaining power individually and collectively, not only individually. Uh, as individual, we get power. It's nothing when we don't have power with our friends, our colleagues. Yeah. So empowerment here is the process of gaining power individually and collectively. This is a dynamic two-pronged process of identity construction, both individual and collective. The concept of empowerment forms part of the vision of gaining power to control one's life and make choices. The capacity for empowerment is tied to instructions and laws, what is allowed or not allowed. This dimension relates to cultural aspects. Okay. But what we can see at the reality, social reality, that the definitions of empowerment is often used as power over. However, when we look at the dimensions of power in the empowerment process, we can see that there are 4 dimensions of power. The first one is power over. This power involves a relationship of domination or subordination that is mutually exclusive. It is assumed that power exists only in limited quantities and is given over a person and allows one to be guided. The second dimension of power is power two. Power two is power that includes the ability to make decisions, have authority, and find solutions to problems. Therefore, this understanding refers to intellectual abilities such including knowledge as well as economics means, namely the ability to access and control the means of production and benefits. Right. And the third one is power wits. Power wits refers to social or political power about common goals or understandings, as well as the ability to negotiate and defend common goals together, individual and collective rights, political ideas such as lobbying, etc. And the fourth one is power within. This understanding of power refers to self-awareness, self-esteem, identity, and assertiveness, knowing how to be. It refers to how individuals, through self-analysis and internal strengths, can influence their lives and make changes. So from a sociological perspective, actually, power is a complicated concept because power has 4 dimensions. And sometimes people only see that power is only one dimension, but actually not. They have 4 dimension of power. And so we have to look at this dimension, not only concentrate on focus on the power over, but more to on the power with, and power within is about better, right? Because it's very difficult sometimes for women to get power over. but not with power with and power within. Right. And next, this is the aspects of empowerment. When we talk about power, it's related to how can get we can empower women. So we look at the four aspects of empowerment. The first aspect is asset, refers to greater economic power in terms of material assets such as income, land, equipment, or technology. Such economic power is not limited to the ownership of resources and wealth, but also includes better health, more time, access to certain services such as loans, information and training, health centers, and markets. The second aspects of empowerment is knowledge and know-how, means having more practical and intellectual knowledge of our skill, enabling a person or community to take advantage of opportunities that arise. This refers to the management of people, leadership techniques or procedures, training, literacy, as well as the development of thinking and reasoning as critical and analytical skills. The fourth aspect of empowerment is will. This refers to inner strengths, psychological strengths, or spiritual strengths. One's values and fears, self-confidence, and self-perception. It is the ability and willingness to make one's own choices for the future, awareness of one's own life plan, as well as the challenge facing one's community. The concept of will also includes two elements of state, of mind, and the ability to use it towards others. Right. And the third aspect is capacity. This means having the opportunity to make decisions, take responsibility, act freely, use resources, asset knowledge. Decision making includes several aspects: the ability to make one's own decision, the ability to take part in decision, the ability to influence decision and control those who make decision on one's behalf, the ability to make decision for others, and to demonstrate authority. So I think this is a very important concept when we want to discuss about the women empowerment, because it relates to the power, relates to the patriarchy, yeah, relates to the feminist, relates to the gender equality, and others issues, gender issues, right? So this four aspect of empowerment is an ideal aspects. So when we have the four aspects of empowerment, it assumes that we already empower ourselves, and we can empower people, especially women surrounding us. Right. So uh, my last pointers here is that this is the the scheme about women empowerment, both the relation of women empowerment and gender equality. So this left side is dimension of power, right? We should have the four dimension of power. This is the ideal type. So if we have the four dimensions of power, this is a very ideal, right? The best one. And when we also have four aspects of power, this is the ideal one, but this is the best one. So when we have this power, well, we can eliminate the patriarchy system, even in public or in private patriarchy, with the indicators such as gender roles and stereotypes, economic inequality, political underrepresentation, violence against women, sexuality, and cultural social norms. So if we can get all these dimension powers and aspect of power, we can eliminate the patriarchy and we can get the gender equality. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
That's
Okay, thank you, Professor Amy, for great presentation about gender and women empowerment from a perspective of social perspective. It was a really valuable insight for us. We will now open the time for the question for our second and third session for this uh, webinar, and from Miss Retno Daru and Professor Amy. You please state us. And for all participants who have questions, please use the chat box or raise hand features to ask the question. We will take as many time as allows sec around to 20 minutes. And then for all the participants, can you raise your hand or use the audio? Okay, is there any question here?
So maybe some men are going to the mosque. Huh? It's already 11:22. Yes. Maybe later. I want to give direct message to me. It's okay after this because I only have 8 minutes time. I have another um event. Yeah, Mbak Clarissa. Is there any question for me?
Okay, is there any question for all the participants here?
What I discussed is actually only what we can learn from the calon arang ya, Budia ya, because Budia, because of this I read the calon arang because I only know the dance but not the book. But this is, I think, the Calon Arang is very, very, what to call it, is very interesting, and we can learn how the roles of women, how female characters, and how the power relations, how patriarchy works at the time, at the legend, yeah, Budia, yeah, Mbak Retno, also. How could I address you, Mbak Retno, or Mbak Daru, or Mbak Dewi?
It's Daru Bu Emu. It's actually very interesting, ya, Ibu. If Ibu mentioned about the dance, I actually read the one from Ibu Tuti Heratis prose.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it's very interesting that Pramudia Anantatur also has another version of what do you call it, Chalanarang. But until today, I have to agree with you that the story of Chalanarang is very related, yeah, Bu. How me myself personally as well as a strong woman, I can see how some insecure men have this fear. Towards us, especially if you're like Chalanarang, where you have just like what you mentioned earlier, Ibu Emi, the stigma of being a widow or being a
yeah,
divorcee, for example. For
yeah,
our
so,
society, we still have those kind of negative stigma.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Iya ya Budia ya. Budia yang you more you more understand, and maybe you already in the faculty of ilmu budaya. I think you already discuss much about this talent Arab, I think. But for me, this is quite new. I mean, to look at deeply at this character, but it's very interesting because we can learn from them. And actually until now we still have our face the same issues, the gender issues, like what the Calon Arang explained or described in the story, yeah, Belinda, Budia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because strong, powerful women are intimidating.
Yeah, yeah, so sad. Yeah. I'm very sorry for the Calon Arang and also her daughter.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
the story of Calon Arang is not only in Indonesia, I think in Javanese mythology, but also in
Mm-hmm.
Western mythology as well. In
Mm-hmm.
American literature, there's a very good book called The Scarlet Letter. It's the same
Oh,
thing.
Scarlet
The
Letter.
Scarlet
Yeah.
Letter, she was accused of being a sinner, but then
Mm-hmm.
and those who accuse her of being sinners are actually very hypocrite because they were doing at the same thing actually. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they were actually witch. They had this secret meeting that they were witch, men and women, especially the men who accuse
Mm-hmm.
Scarlett as being a sinner, a witch as well. So in
Mm-hmm.
American literature, that women associated with witch are very, very much common from the literature point of view, also from the Mitch. In Salem, Massachusetts, you have even a
Oh.
museum, the Witch Museum. So
Mm-hmm.
which in a Middle Age Europe or Western civilization is a symbol of powerful women because they have the power to work on the politics of the village or even in the politics of the kingdom. But you know, women with power has always been seen as a threat, intimidating. So they were
Yeah.
labeled as witch, right? So they were labeled as witch. They were persecuted. They were burned to death. And there are many stories like this. So I think uh, this is not a single story in Java, Indonesia, but in many cultures in the world, they share similar stories
Mm-hmm.
where women with superpower were considered as a threat, as intimidating, you know. So they need to be labeled, they need to be trapped within a certain label, certain stigma. So they were stripped of their powers. So, and this
Mm-hmm.
is something that happened everywhere. So
Mm-mm.
my question is, well,
That is a
yeah.
universal
Yes,
phenomena,
yes,
I
a
think, yeah.
universal phenomena. Even in
I have
literature, you will find it a lot of stories of this. So I guess Monsters Feminine is not only in Indonesia, but several stories, even narrative in Southeast Asia, share the
Mm-hmm.
same similarities, share the
mhm.
same characteristic of women being superpower, you know, and they are intimidating, so they need to be stripped of the powers by giving them label, by burning them to death. So that is very, very common.
Ibu Dia, I think I would like to add something. I have to agree with you with the Scarlet Letter, yeah, Bu, how usually those, what do you call it, accuser of sexual violence and sin are
Mhm.
actually those who are hypocrite. If I'm not mistaken, in Scarlet Letter, the guy is actually a very religious man as well.
Yeah,
So I think I have to agree that we cannot reach gender equality because this society around us are doctrinating this very
mhm.
traditional culture and also religion. While actually religious interpretation is very multidimensional, and some people
Yeah.
prefer to act violence using the name of
Yeah,
religion.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think yes, but no. And the thing is that it's good. I mean, very recently, Disney, for example, released movies that look the story from the whole different point of view. Those who used to be villains, witches, they are now given perspective. Like the Wicked, for example, from the Wizard of Oz, and then Malvisions. You know that women become like this is not because they are evil because there is something. So I guess now, in terms of changes, there are stories like this. Not only women, but men as well. Now there are series like who portrayed like Joker. Why was Joker become so evil? So now a number of popular products looking at the other side of the story. You know, like I followed very recently the Penguin, for example. Penguin in the Batman stories also given a new perspective. It started with Malvision and then the Wicked, for example. I think more we have a progress in seeing that, you know, the monsters feminine, women who were considered as evil because they are superpower, they have superpower, is not because they were born evil, you know, but because there is something. Like like Malavision, for example, she became like this because she was raped. You know, when the wings, her wings were forcibly taken, it's a symbol of rape. right? The same as the Wicked, because Wicked, the Wicked character, she was manipulated, right? So I think there's
Yeah.
been a number of ways where these monster feminists are giving you perspective, and I think it's really good
Mm-mm.
because we don't
Mm-mm.
see black and white. There are so many faces of what it means to be women and also what it means to be men, like Joker,
Mm-mm.
for example. So we have
Yeah.
sympathy for Joker, we have sympathy for the penguin, why they become evil. So I think there is a good progress in terms of popular culture, because young people now, they don't read literature, they watch movies, right? So it's a good
Yeah.
way of giving you
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
Okay, excuse me, ma'am. There are questions in the chat box, and may I have to read it for the
Yeah.
question?
Yes,
It's
please. Read it.
okay. How do the relationship between male and female characters in Calon Arang illustrate the dynamic of patriarchy?
Who will answer? Male
It's
and
from
female.
it's from Professor Amy or Miss Retnodaro is okay.
Yeah, maybe Abu
Maybe,
Dia. Could
or
you
Ibu Emi
give a
because
bit
Ibu
more?
Emi wants to go, right?
Huh? Pardon? Yes.
Maybe Ibu Emi because Ibu Emi says she has to go.
Yeah, that's why I asked Bu Dia and Mbak Retno to answer the questions because I only more focusing on the female character. But I think the male is the one who always exploit and always give us negative stereotypes to women. I think that's all. Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
okay.
can probably add from that, Ibu Emi. Thank you very much. So I have to agree with Ibu Emi that it is the male that actually stigmatized the female, especially Calonarang. Yeah. So one thing is that instead of, so Ibu Dia earlier has already given us a very good example of how we should see one problem for many point of view, like the Disney villain, like the superhero villain. If we take a look at their background, we know the reason why they become like that. It's not like they're pure evil. There are some reasons. Now, if we take a look at Talonarang and the male-female relations in the story, the male, instead of okay, the patriarchal society, I'm not talking about male, yeah. Patriarchy is not only male. Female can have that patriarchal mindset as well. So basically, instead of understanding what happened to Chalonarang, to help her, to make her a good neighbor, for example, they exile her, right? They think like, oh, she's a divorcee, she's a widow, for example. Probably the female has this evil mindset. Oh, she's a divorcee. I'm afraid my husband will be lured by her. If you are a good man, you will never be lured by any female. If you're already married, you will be loyal. So instead of having those kind of mindset, they exile Calonarang. That's one form of patriarchal way of thinking. Also, from the story, the prose that is created by Ibu Tuti Herati almarhumah, she actually pointed out how those male's character, the princess, are actually used to, what do you call it, to marry the daughter of Calonarang. So Calonarang can calm herself down. Everything can be peaceful. Marriage as a peaceful offering is very patriarchal, right? Because what they can have in their mindset is how we win, how we get the profit. Okay, tell them to get married. It is lucky if those male and female who got married in love with each other, but mostly they don't. That is another form of patriarchal that we can see in Chalonarang. I mean, instead of approaching Chalonarang and ask her, what do you want? Why are you so angry? Why don't you do that? Why you have to marry your son to the daughter of someone who's actually need help? So those are patriarchal way of thinking from my point of view on Chalanarang. Ibu Dia probably can add more information about that.
Yeah, it's very really interesting to see the gender dynamics in the story of Calon Arang. Remember that calon arang is just a woman with no power. Yeah. Well, people label her as a monster feminist with a supernatural power, and she's the only one against the king. Imagine the dynamic. The king is up here and calon arang is here. So you see the gap. I mean, that's how powerful she is as an ordinary woman, a widow at least, against the king. And you know how many kings, you know how many people that serve the king, the armies and everything. So if you see that the imbalanced the gender dynamics of power, obviously, and also you have to know also that what Calon Arang does is to because she wants a daughter to get married. So you have to know also the relationship between mother and daughter. This is something that some people overlook, yeah. That a very strong relationship, calon arang always be labeled as evil and everything, and you need to see also the motherhood and daughterhood relationship within calon arang and Ratna Manggali, right? Which people always overlook, I think. Very strong relationship, and if you ask any mother, who would want any mother who would want no mother would want to have a daughter or son who is still single forever. You can ask them. Yeah. So I think you have to see from the other side of the story, the idea of strong love and bond between Calon Arang and Ratna Manggali. But on the other hand, you have to see how strong the threat that Calon Arang posed to the king. And imagine a widow and a king, a widow with no army whatsoever, and a king, a king with thousands of army and superpower, King Erlangga, right, who's known to be very rational and everything. So so I so it really intrigued to see whether or not the power that Calon Arang being able to spread all the disease is actually true or not. Or is it something that done by the king, to spread the rumors, but because he's being threatened by the presence of Calon Arang, so he creates, I call it larger than life Calon Arang, so people are afraid of, because in reality, maybe calon arang is just a young widow, powerless. Because this is something usually happen in myth. If you study myth or legend, usually it start usually with just an ordinary people like Robin Hood, and then comes it becomes youth. The story spread everywhere, and it's become a threat. So what you happen is the monarch usually creates larger than life character. So they will be able to subdue, to control the narrative. For example, in the story of Robin Hood is made into a lord. In narrative studies, it's called gentrification. So Robin Hood is gentrified, make it larger than life, so that when he is opposed to the king, you see there is a equal power between the lord and the king. You know what I mean? So this is also when what happened to gender dynamics when you select calon arang. Calon arang might be just a simple widow, who loved the daughter very much, wants the daughter to get married, but because of the rumor and the king is threatened, so he creates larger than life calon arang who is very evil because he's afraid, because he then when calon arang opposes him, so calon arang is raised into the status of very powerful witch women. Maybe in reality it's not. Maybe this is created by the king. So the king has parallel enemy. Because if the king is afraid of just ordinary women, so what it means to be a king, oh, you should not be a king. You're just afraid of an ordinary widow. But when this widow becomes larger than life, so you have this equal or parallel level in terms of gender dynamics. You know what I mean? There is a way of leveling si calon arang ini to much higher larger than life status, right? So the king can make a comparable and equal and parallel standing with the calon arang. Okay, that's what the way I see calon arang, yeah, because it's maybe she's just ordinary widow who loves the daughter very much, but the king is threatened, so create all these rumors and blah 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 blah. Remember, this is this is a myth. It's a narrative. It's a narrative, and of course, narrative is always be element of supernaturality, and elements of superpower is always be added to the narrative.
All right. All right. Thank you for all the answer and all the participants who asked this question for our final Q&A session today. Okay, thank you so much for our amazing Professor Dia and Professor Emi Susanti and then Miss Retna Daru for sharing such wonderful insight for us and to our audience for their active participation and enthusiasm throughout the all webinar today. I am Clarissa Fania Putri as the moderator for today's session, and I sincerely apologize for any mistakes made during the session. It's been a pleasure for collaborating with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ibu Dia.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a good day. It's good to see you all.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, because our MC is not here, and ladies and gentlemen, that concludes day one of our webinar. Thank you to all the speaker, moderator, and participants for making today's event a success. We're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for more insightful discussion. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you. All right, for the presency for today's session, it will be shared through the group. So please stay tuned for the group and see you for tomorrow. Thank you.